Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayatmudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shlokir Bhaktir Bhavatir Naishtiki. Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 24, Verse 36. Etan me janmalokesmin mumukshunam durashayat prasankhanya tatvanam samatyatma darshane. Etan me janmalokesmin mumukshunam durasayat prasankhayana tatvanam samatyatma darshane. Etat, this, me, my, janma, birth, loke, in the world, asmin, in this, mumukshunam, by those great sages seeking liberation, durashaya, from unnecessary material desires, prasankhyanaya, for explaining, tatvanam, of the truths, samataya, which is highly esteemed, atmadarshane, in self-realization. Translation. My appearance in this world is especially to explain the philosophy of Sankhya, which is highly esteemed for self-realization by those desiring freedom from entanglement of unnecessary material desires. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Here the word durashayat is very significant. Dur refers to trouble or dukkha, miseries. Ashayat means from the shelter. We conditioned souls have taken shelter of the material body, which is full of troubles and miseries. Foolish people cannot understand the situation, and this is called ignorance, illusion, or the spell of Maya. Human society should very seriously understand. One second. Human society should very seriously understand that the body itself is a source of all miserable life. Modern civilization is supposed to be making advancement in scientific knowledge, but what is this scientific knowledge? It is based on the bodily comforts only, without knowledge that however comfortably one maintains this body, the body is destructible. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Atavanta ime deha. These bodies are destined to be destroyed. Nityasyokta sarirayanaha refers to the living soul or the living spark within the body. The soul is eternal, but the body is not eternal. For our activity, we must have a body. Without a body, without sense organs, there is no activity. But people are not inquiring whether it's possible to have an eternal body. Actually, they aspire for an eternal body because even though they engage in sense enjoyment, that sense enjoyment is not eternal. They are therefore in want of something that which they can enjoy eternally. But they do not understand how to attain that perfection. Sankhya philosophy, therefore, as stated herein by Kapila Deva, is tattvanam. The Sankhya philosophy system is designed to afford understanding of the real truth. What is that real truth? The real truth is knowledge of how to get out of the material body, which is the source of all trouble. Lord Kapila's incarnation or descent is especially meant for this purpose. That is clearly stated here. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayham Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhamritamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kantha Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribol, dear devotees, once again, good morning to all of you and wishing you all a very happy early Balaram Purnima. So today's class, we will be exploring some of the key takeaways in this verse. It is a discussion between, it started just yesterday. It is a discussion, it is a discussion we've been seeing in this chapter between Kapila Muni and his father Kardama Muni, Kapila Muni being an incarnation of Lord Vishnu. And Kapila Muni and Kardama Muni are having this conversation, and now it is Kapila Muni's turn to speak. And so we have Kapila Muni in yellow, in his reddish brown hue, and Kardama Muni, as you can see, is making his final voyage into a renounced order of life. So it's a very big step for their family. And Kapila Muni is explaining to Kardama Muni what his purpose in life is. So it's very interesting because I think everyone is trying to figure out their purpose in life, and having a good purpose becomes the reason for one's life, one's soul purpose, one's soul mission. They often say, one quote by His Grace Martin Luther King is nothing worth, if you have nothing worth dying for, then you have nothing worth living for. And we have a similar sentiment in this verse where we are learning about the purpose of Kapila Muni's appearance. And by understanding this purpose, we have a lamppost by which to understand the rest of this canto, because the rest of this canto, most of this canto, is going to be the teachings of Kapila Muni to his mother Devahuti. So understanding this leads us to a framework to understand all of Sankhya philosophy. And as we can see from the translation, the effect, so the prayojana of following Sankhya philosophy, which is highly esteemed for self-realization, is the detanglement, the freedom from unnecessary material desires, which are keeping us locked in to this body. And the Sanskrit, and Srila Prabhupada does a very wonderful, the Sanskrit is very beautiful, and Srila Prabhupada does a wonderful job in his purport of explaining each one. And I've put some pictures for the purport to make more sense, because I think it's a really beautiful purport, but sometimes might be difficult to understand without the context of some pictures. So here we have the house of miseries. So this body is likened to a house. Sometimes it's also likened to a city. We'll see in the story of Puranjana, one canto from now, little late in that canto though, that Puranjana it is this allegorical metaphor for the city of 9 gates. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then some down there. So we have this city of 9 gates, this house that we have kept the soul in. And this house is a house of misery. There's so many ailments one is always having to go through. There's so many ailments one is having to go through, so many miseries. There's adhyatmika miseries, the ones that I think are a bit underestimated, but I believe are the worst of all are the ones that our own gross and subtle body create upon us. I've often heard this statement that actually I've not often heard the statement. You also have often heard this statement by our dear Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, that your mind can be the greatest friend or the greatest enemy. And it often feels like that the mind is the greatest enemy, and it's not it's like our roommate in this subtle body that we live in. All right, currently I'm reading right now talks between Narada and Pratinarpi Maharaj, and Narada Muni gives great emphasis that our first home is the mind, intelligence, and false ego, our subtle body. Then come the covers of the gross body, because everything starts in the subtle body. We think something, and then it manifests. Thinking, feeling, willing, and then finally doing. Everything manifests first from the subtle body. So even though at the end of life, the gross body is left behind, the subtle body has the ingredients, the desires, the desires that will lead to another gross body. And so this gross body and subtle body are filled with so many miseries. Right now I'm sneezing also, so it's a bit uncomfortable also in the morning. So there's so many miseries. I'm sure we can all complain about what our bodies are doing to us, and it's very difficult. It is very difficult, and I don't want to make light of a difficult situation that our bodies place us into. But this house is something we can still be grateful for, that we still have a house to live in. And this house is so precious. This house is so precious, but there's one reason why this house is particularly precious to us. I'm not sure if anyone can read my mind. If you want to put it in the chat. But there's one reason I'm thinking why, even despite so many miseries, this particular house that we all have is very precious. Maybe some of you will be reading my mind, but I'm thinking, because is the human form of life. And with this human form of life, one can engage in devotional service. One can understand the purpose of life. One can ask these kind of questions that are not possible in other forms of life. So we're incredibly grateful for this body. So again, back to the misery. So there's adibhotika miseries by nature and all that around us. Adidevika misery by the devas up there. So like all the tornadoes and so many other things. There are so many miseries like that. And to consider that this body is the end all, that all there is the body, like we see in science today. We're given only emphasis to the body and sometimes the mind now we're seeing, but not at all to the soul. We don't consider the identity, or our own identity, as being separate from the body and mind. And that Srila Prabhupada and Kapila Muni are referring to as Maya, as illusion. And I learned a new word recently. I'm reading a book of Toltec philosophy. In ancient Spanish wisdom, they call Maya by this other word. It's called mitote. I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly, but mitote basically roughly translates to a fog. So it's a similar idea of Maya, where we cannot see clearly what is ahead of us. We cannot see clearly our soul. So the body is the shelter for the soul, and that's why we are constantly, so many advancements are made to take care of this body. But what would really solve all our problems is a spiritual body. At the same time, I want to make a disclaimer and say that as devotees, one, because all of you are so sweet and working so hard for Krishna, and also not even just as devotees, in general, I think people don't give enough importance to taking care of one's body. Because again, like I mentioned, this body is the shelter, this body is the house, this is our house. And even though it may be giving us so much trouble, Srila Prabhupada says a bad bargain, it is still a gift from Krishna that we must take care of. It's still a gift that we must take care of. All right, so these were the key takeaways from today's verse. I see I have a little bit more time left at 6:50. I'll take the next 4 minutes to, if you all don't mind, to lead you all through a brief meditation on Balaramji, because his birthday is coming up tomorrow. His appearance day is coming tomorrow. So how Balaramji relates to this verse, let's start there. So Lord Balaram is the guru, the eternal primeval guru to the soul, for you and me, for everyone, for the Prabhupada, for all people. He is the guru. And without his desire, without his mercy, we cannot approach the platform of Krishna consciousness. We cannot aspire for the spiritual body, which is eternal. Okay? Angani asya sakalendriya vrittimanti pashyanti panti kalayanti chiram jaganti ananda chinmaya sadujvala vigrahasya govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajami. The spiritual body is eternal, and each anga, each organ of the spiritual body, of Krishna's spiritual body, can interchangeably do the function of the other organs. It is so magical. It is so beautiful. Right? Krishna, we often hear, can eat with his eyes. He just looks and he accepts the offering like that. But we cannot reach the platform of this without Lord Balaram's mercy. And Lord Balaram, he has killed multiple demons, right? In the pastimes in Vrindavan, he has killed the gigantic Pralambasura, which represents lusty inclinations and greed for status, for this huge status. Dhenukasura, and so on. So many he has killed. And I'd like to briefly talk about the story of Pralambasura. So Pralambasura was a demon sent by King Kamsa to kill Krishna. And so he came to Vrindavan, and while the little boys were playing a game of tug of war. So Krishna was on one side and Balaram was on the other side. And these two, equally matched in power, these two brothers were pulling at each other's side. And Pralambasura decided to take the side of Krishna. And while they were pulling and pulling and pulling, just like that, Balaram's team won. Balaram's team won, and Krishna's team went flying into the ditch beneath. And Pralambasura had thought of this, that this Balaram seems very capable and powerful and is always hovering around Krishna, always protecting Krishna. I must get rid of this Balaram before I even touch Krishna. And so Pralambasura, the deal was in the tug of war that the losers had to carry the winners on their backs throughout Vrindavan's forest. So Pralambasura, this demon taking the form of a young Gopa boy, took Balaram on his shoulders and he started to walk. And the Gopa boys were taking a path around, but soon it became apparent as they were walking through the forest that Pralambasura was taking a different route than Balaram. And Pralambasura started to take Balaram away, and he, as he was walking away, he started to get tired because he realized Balaram was getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And mind you, he's only in his Kaishura age. He's only 7 years old. You can think your second grade kid. He's only this young, and he's getting heavier and heavier and heavier, like 1,000 weights, and just sitting on Pralambasura's shoulders, just so much pain. And Pralambasura can't keep his disguise going anymore. And they reach a secluded part of the forest, and Pralambasura almost decides, okay, there's no point. I'll just finish off this Balaram right here in the secluded part of the forest. And so he starts to grab for Balaram, but Balaram, with his fist, he gives one blow to Pralambasura, and another, and Pralambasura, like this gigantic demon, humongous demon, the size of multiple houses, goes crashing down into the floor of Vrindavan, and the sound is heard everywhere. And so all the Gopa boys come and they see how Balaram has killed this massive demon, and they all get so excited. And they go home and they tell everyone, oh, Balaram did this today, and he's like this, and he's so wonderful. And all the Brajavasis, they smile and they nod. There is something very special about those two boys, Krishna and Balaram. So Balaramji, he is the guru of the spirit soul, and his role in our lives is to remove all of the ignorance, the illusion in our lives. Like we're reading here that the thing that is keeping us from truly admitting that we are the spirit soul, that we are Jivira Swarupa Hoy Krishna Nitya Das, is this illusion. So Lord Balaram's role in our lives is with his plow, if he can mercifully remove the illusion that we have, so that we can focus on Krishna better and serve him better. So that would be the prayer I would make to Balaram on this special early day of his appearance. So thank you all so much for joining. I hope you all enjoyed this class. And we will talk soon. Happy Balaram Purnima. Happy early Balaram Purnima. Celebrations have already begun. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna devotees, Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Survi Sundari
Hare
Mataji.
Bol.
Thank you, Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So let's end here by chanting. Vanchakalpataruvesya Kripasindhuvaya
Vanchakalpataruvesya Kripasindhuvaya
Patita
Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah.
Vaishnavanda
Ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Thank you everybody. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.